What's up YouTube, this is Brian from Bull Strength coming at you with another video, and today we're going to be talking about front squats versus back squats. Alright, so it's time to settle the age-old debate. Which one is better, front squats or back squats? Having the weight loaded on your anterior or your posterior. We're going to skip ahead. I'm going to just tell you the conclusion up front. They are both excellent lifts. I'm not saying that one is better than the other. I do have a preference of one over the other. However, both have their place in training and both should be performed pretty regularly. All right, so let's compare some of the key differences between the back squat and the front squat. And the first difference is the elephant in the room, the load of the weight. So with a front squat, you have an anterior load, which means you have a load up front. And with the back squat, you have a posterior load, meaning that the load is in the back. And these different styles of loading weight create different types of motor patterns. So according to EMG results from several studies, the muscle activation is pretty much identical when we're talking about the legs. So according to these EMG results, there wasn't a lot of difference in terms of lower body muscle activation between the front squat and the back squat. The back squat does put a little extra emphasis on the hips and hamstrings, and the front squat puts a little extra emphasis on the quads. Specifically the vastus medialis, the one that kind of runs down the front of your leg down to your knee here. So in terms of activation of the lower body, it's pretty much the same. Now the key difference between the front squat and the back squat is what your trunk is doing. In other words, how your core is stabilizing itself. So because the back squat is loaded directly on top of your spine, the back squat is going to be a lot better for strengthening the upper back muscles, the spinal erectors, as well as the vertebrae in your spine itself. One of the things that's often overlooked with strength training, and especially with back squats, is the fact that compressive force is not only breaking down muscle fiber and building new tissue, but you're also breaking down bone. You're causing microfractures in your vertebrae from that compression, and what ends up happening is your vertebrae end up growing back stronger in the same way that your muscles do. From spending years of not only building up the muscle, but also building up the bone, it's going to cause you to age a lot more gracefully. And just a fair warning, when you're doing back squats, you want to keep your core as tight as possible. If you have any sort of flexion in your spine, in other words, if your torso is collapsing, you kind of need to back off on the weight or work on your mobility. Something is off there, and you do not want to keep squatting if you're combining your squat with a good morning. That being said, also any sort of spinal rotation is bad news. You want to keep everything rigid and straight and in the same spot. You should not be even looking around with your head. Keep your vertebrae in a straight line throughout the entire back squat. Okay, and the other major advantage that the back squat has over the front squat is overloading potential. Because the weight is a lot more stable on your back, you have bigger muscles supporting the weight, you're able to move more weight. Right, so those are the advantages of doing back squats. Now let's get into some of the advantages of doing front squats. So just like how we talked about with back squats causing posterior core stabilization, the front squat is going to promote anterior core stabilization. So in other words, it is going to hit your abdominals more, but it's also, and this is one of the most important things, at least for me, because I'm really big into overhead pressing. I'm a huge proponent of the overhead press. Doing front squats is going to build a much stronger rack and a foundation for you to be able to overhead press more weight. That's because if you're in a proper front squat position with the weight sitting across your shoulders, this is going to build up the shoulder / pectoral girdle a lot more effectively than the back squat. The back squat isn't really going to have a lot of carryover into shoulder strength, at least on the anterior part of your shoulder. So if the goal is to get a stronger overhead press, the front squat is going to be more effective. Also, if you're an Olympic lifter, obviously the front squat is going to be a much better accessory than the back squat. However, you do still want to back squat as an Olympic lifter. You want to be able to overload and build as much raw strength as you can from your hips and hamstrings. So incorporating heavy squats is important for an Olympic lifter. On the flip side, with a power lifter that emphasizes nothing but back squats, front squats are going to help you with your mobility. They're going to make your back squats a lot more efficient. So another huge advantage that the front squat has over the back squat is the fact that you have to keep your torso upright throughout the entire movement, right? The back squat, your torso can kind of fold down a little bit, and it's not really a big deal. You can kind of fight it using your back and your hips. However, with the front squat, if you start tipping over, it's pretty much game over. Once your form breaks down, you're going to dump the weight. You're going to spill it. You either got it or you don't with a front squat. There's really no cheating. So on that token, maintaining an upright torso and forcing thoracic extension is going to be a lot better towards correcting posture as well. So if you have any sort of anterior imbalance in your upper body posture, so in other words, you have like spinal kyphosis, you have a little bit of rounding in your upper back, the form that you would have in a front squat is pretty much the opposite of your normal posture if you have spinal kyphosis. So building strength using an upright torso and thoracic extension is going to carry over in a big way into your posture, especially if you have any issues. So which one is better? I mean, there's not really an answer to that. It depends on your goals. If you're sort of a sedentary type person and you're in the gym for the first time and you're getting back in shape, the front squat, in my opinion, is going to be better in the long term. Because most likely if you've been sedentary for a long time, you are going to have a lot of postural issues, and the front squat is going to help correct those. However, like I said, both of them have their place. The front squat is better for sort of correcting posture and building shoulder stabilization, while the back squat is better for overloading and building stabilization in the posterior trunk. So yeah, they both have their place. There is no answer as to which one is better. You're pretty much comparing apples and oranges. All right, that's pretty much it for the video. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the content, please leave a like and subscribe. If you'd like to support this channel, you can do so through Patreon and Subscribestar. Links are down below, and I will see you in the next video. Peace out.